In today's lesson, we're going to be solving multi-step inequalities. Okay, and so the first thing that we're going to want to do is review some of the things that we've talked about with inequalities in the past. The phrase preserves the inequality symbol means that the symbol stays the same. Okay, when you preserve something, you keep it the way that it is. But reverses the inequality symbol means that the symbol changes to the opposite symbol. Okay, now we need to know when the symbol should be preserved and when the symbol should be reversed. The inequality symbol is preserved whenever you add and subtract, doesn't matter what kind of numbers you're adding and subtracting, as well as when you multiply or divide by a positive number. Okay, adding and subtracting any numbers as well as multiplying and dividing with positive numbers will preserve the inequality symbol. Okay, and so that means that the inequality symbol will be reversed only when you multiply or divide by a negative number. Okay, so just make sure that you're paying attention to the operations that you're doing and the types of numbers that you're using in those operations to figure out if you're preserving or reversing the symbol. In the first example, we have 3x plus 60 plus x is less than or equal to 84. This is a multi-step inequality. Just like we saw with multi-step equations, we want to try to form a two-stepper out of this so that we can solve the inequality easier. So on the left-hand side, I notice that I have two variable terms. I have a 3x and an x, and so I'm going to rearrange so that they're together. 3x plus 1x, and then I'll put plus 60 is less than or equal to 84. And now I can combine 3x and 1x to make 4x. So I have 4x plus 60 is less than or equal to 84. And this is now a two-step inequality. The variable term is on the left. It's got a constant of positive 60 with it. So we're going to start by subtracting 60 from each side. On the left, 60 minus 60 is 0, leaving us with 4x. On the right, 84 minus 60 is 24. And we subtracted, which will preserve the symbol, so 4x is less than or equal to 24. Now we need to get the value of 1x. Right now, x is being multiplied by 4, so we will go ahead and divide by 4 on both sides. On the left, 4x divided by 4 is our 1x. On the right, 24 divided by 4 is 6, and dividing by a positive will preserve the symbol. So we have x is less than or equal to 6, and now we need to graph this on the number line. So I'm going to have to put a closed circle on 6 since I'm allowed to be equal to 6. So let's go ahead and do that, closed circle. And now for the less than part, I'm going to shade the number line to the left of 6. This is where all the values less than 6 are found, to the left. Don't forget to bold the arrow on the left-hand side as well. Okay, so any of these values that we've shaded in would be a solution to our original inequality. In example 3, we have negative 4 multiplying negative 2n plus 6 in parentheses, and then plus 2n is less than 76. Okay, so a little more complicated than the last two examples that we looked at. In this problem, I noticed that there's a number multiplying items in parentheses, and so the very first thing I'm going to have to do here, step number 1, is distribute. Okay, so when I distribute the negative 4, I'm going to have negative 4 times negative 2n minus 4 times 6, and then plus 2n is less than 76. When I do this multiplication, negative 4 times negative 2n is 8n, negative 4 times 6 is negative 24, and then plus 2n is less than 76. Okay, at this point in the problem, I'm going to do my second step, which is to rearrange. And again, that's if necessary. And we see in this example that we do have two similar terms on the left-hand side, so I'm going to rearrange my terms so that they're together. I'm going to have 8n plus 2n minus 24 is less than 76. Okay, and now I can do step number 3, which is to combine my similar terms. Combine similar terms. So I have 8n plus 2n that I can combine, my two variable terms, which is going to make 10n minus 24 is less than 76. And this now is a two-step inequality. So step number 4, I'm going to solve the two-step inequality. So I see that I have my variable term on the left. It has a constant of negative 24 with it on the left, so I'm going to start by adding 24 on each side so that I can isolate the variable term. On the left, negative 24 plus 24 is 0, leaving us with 10n. And on the right, 76 plus 24 is 100. And we just added on both sides, which will preserve the symbol. So 10n is less than 100. Now we need to get the value of 1n. Right now, n is being multiplied by 10, so we'll go ahead and divide by 10 on each side. And when we do this, 10n divided by 10 is our positive 1n. 100 divided by 10 is 10. And we divided by a positive number, which again will preserve the symbol. So our solved inequality says that n is less than 10. Now we need to do the final step, step number 5, which is to graph the solution. Okay, so since we had n is less than 10, what we're going to do is put an open circle on 10, since I'm not allowed to be equal to 10. Open circle on 10. And now less than 10 is going to be shaded to the left on the number line. So we're going to shade the values that are to the left of 10 on our number line. And as always, don't forget to bold the arrow in this direction as well. So any of these values that we've shaded in would be a solution to our inequality. Any value less than 10, okay? If it's 10 or higher, it will not be a solution to our original inequality. In the next few examples, we're going to look at multi-step inequalities that contain rational numbers. So we're going to include more fractions and decimals in these examples. And so looking at this example, we have 3/10 multiplying in parentheses negative 5 minus 2w, and that's greater than 3 and 3/10. Okay, so just like we were looking at earlier, I see a number of multiplying items in parentheses, so I'm going to start by distributing. So let's distribute as step number 1. So when I do that here, I'm going to have 3/10 times negative 5 plus 3/10 times negative 2w is greater than 3 and 3/10. Okay, and make sure you've got your calculator handy here when you do your multiplication. All right, 3/10, if you multiply that by negative 5, that gives you negative 1 and 5/10. And if you do 3/10 times negative 2w, that's going to give you negative 6/10 w. So minus 6/10 w is greater than 3 and 3/10. All right, your second step would be to reorder and combine similar terms. And looking at this inequality, well, I actually don't have any similar terms that I can combine. So I have negative 1 and 5/10 minus 6/10 w is greater than 3 and 3/10. This already is a two-step inequality. So that's what we're going to do here in step number 3. Solve the two-step inequality. Okay, so the first thing we're going to have to do is find the variable term. It's on the left. All right, it's got the constant negative 1 and 5/10 with it, so we're going to have to start by adding 1 and 5/10 on each side so that we can isolate the variable term. On the left, negative 1 and 5/10 plus 1 and 5/10 is 0, leaving us with negative 6/10 w on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side, 3 and 3/10 plus 1 and 5/10 is 4 and 8/10. And we just added, which is going to preserve the symbol, so negative 6/10 w is greater than 4 and 8/10. Now we need to get the value of 1w. Right now, w is being multiplied by negative 6/10, so we're going to go ahead and divide by negative 6/10 on each side. On the left, negative 6/10 w divided by negative 6/10 is our positive 1w. On the right, 4 and 8/10 divided by negative 6/10 is negative 8. And we just divided by a negative number, which is going to reverse the symbol. So W is going to be less than -8. So there is your solved inequality. And now what we're going to have to do in step number 4 is graph the solution. So since we had W was less than -8, I can't be equal to -8, so I'm going to start by putting an open circle right on -8. And now to be less than that value, I need to shade the number line to the left and bold the arrow in that direction. And any of these numbers that we've shaded in would be a solution to our original inequality. In example number 1, we have 1/3 multiplying x plus 3 in parentheses plus 1/2 is greater than -1/2. Okay, and since I have a number multiplying things in parentheses, I'm going to start by distributing. I'm going to distribute the 1/3 to the x and the 3. So I'm going to have 1/3 times 1x plus 1/3 times 3, and I'm going to make 3 a fraction by putting it over 1. And then plus 1/2 is greater than -1/2. So now when we multiply 1/3 times 1x, that's just 1/3 x. And when I do 1/3 times 3, I can simplify the 3 in the numerator and in the denominator. They have a common factor of 3, so they're both going to turn into 1s. 1 over 1 times 1 over 1 is just 1. So 1/3 x plus 1 plus 1/2 is greater than -1/2. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to combine my similar terms that I have on the left-hand side. I have the constants +1 and +1/2. 1 plus 1/2 is 1.5. So I have 1/3 x plus 1 and 1/2 is greater than -1/2. And this is the two-step inequality. My variable term is on the left. It's got a constant of +1.5 with it. So I'm going to start by subtracting 1.5 on each side so that I can isolate the variable term. On the left, 1.5 minus 1.5 is 0, leaving us with 1/3 x. On the right, -1/2 minus 1.5, those have the same sign, so I'm going to add them together. -1/2 plus -1.5 is -2. And we just subtracted on each side, which is going to preserve the inequality symbol. So 1/3 x is greater than -2. Okay, and I'm just going to bring this over here now where I've got a little more room to work. Again, it's 1/3 x is greater than -2. And now I need to get the value of just x. Right now, x is being multiplied by the fraction 1/3. So instead of dividing by 1/3, I'm going to multiply by 1/3's reciprocal, which is 3 over 1. So I'm going to multiply by 3 over 1 on the left. 3 over 1 is the same as 3. So on the right, I'm just going to multiply by 3. And looking at the left-hand side, again, the 3 that I have in the numerator and the denominator will both turn into 1s. So this is 1 over 1 times 1 over 1x, which is just our 1x, which is what we're looking for. On the right-hand side, -2 times 3 is -6. And we just multiplied both sides by a positive number, which will preserve the symbol. So x is going to be greater than -6. This is our solved inequality. And now I'm going to graph the solution on the number line. Since I'm not allowed to be equal to -6, I'm going to need an open circle. And to be greater than -6, I'm going to shade the number line to the right. These are all of the values that are going to be greater than -6. Okay, don't forget to bold the arrow in this direction as well. So any of these shaded values would be a solution to the original inequality.